Good afternoon and welcome to the World News Review on Independent Television Abuja. I'm Nkiri Obuli. Starting off, 11 taxi drivers in South Africa were killed in an ambush while returning from their colleague's funeral. For this and more on the foreign scene, let's join Gabriel Kuma.
Police say gunmen in South Africa have killed 11 taxi drivers in an ambush. The men from Gauteng province were traveling to Johannesburg on Saturday night when their minibus was fired on. Police said the victims and 4 others critically injured were returning from a colleague's funeral in the coastal region of KwaZulu-Natal. The motive is unclear, although rivalry between groups running minibus taxi routes in South Africa has led to violence in the past. Minibus taxis are the most popular form of transportation among South Africa's population of 55 million. Police spokesman Brigadier J. Neika said the vehicle was attacked between the towns of Koleso and Wenan in the coastal province. The targeted attack comes days after deadly shootings in Johannesburg. Israel says it has carried out an evacuation of members of Syria's White Helmet Civil Defense Group from a war zone in southwestern Syria. Some 422 volunteers and family members were taken to Jordan via the Israeli-occupied Golan Heights overnight. The UK, one of the nations requesting Israel's help, hailed the operation and will assist with resettlement. The White Helmets describe themselves as a volunteer workforce that acts to save people in Syria's war zones. Supporters of the Syrian President Bashar al-Assad and his Russian allies say the White Helmets support the rebels and also have links to jihadist groups. The Israel Defense Forces said they were acting on a request from the US, the UK, and other European nations. The new Brexit Secretary, Dominic Raab, has said a deal with the EU can be reached by October, but the UK is preparing for a possibility of no deal. He said he would return to Brussels for talks on Thursdays and strain every sinew to get the best deal. Labour leader Jeremy Corbyn said that there must be a serious stepping up of negotiations to avoid no deal. Mr. Raab told newsmen if the energy, ambition and pragmatism the UK brought to negotiations was reciprocated, a deal would be done in October. He noted that 80% of the withdrawal agreement was already settled. He said he was useful that the EU chief Brexit negotiator Michael Barnier had raised questions about the Prime Minister's blueprint for the UK's future trading relationship with the EU.
2 people were killed and 12 others injured, one of them critically by a gunman who opened fire on a busy avenue in Canada's largest city, just as Islamic militants stormed a military base in southern Somalia after detonating the suicide car bomb. For more on the foreign scene, let's join Oluwatoyin Yusuf.
2 people have been killed and 12 others wounded, one of them critically by a gunman who opened fire on a busy avenue in Canada's largest city. One of the dead was a young woman, while the person critically injured in the attack in the Greektown district of Toronto is a girl of 8 or 9. The gunman is also dead, but it's unclear how he died. The attack erupted on Danforth Avenue on Sunday evening when the area was teeming with people. The motive for the shooting, which reportedly targeted at least 2 cafes or restaurants, is unclear. In a video clip shared on Canadian media, a white man wearing a dark cap and dark clothing and carrying a shoulder bag can be seen stopping on a pavement and pulling out a handgun before firing the shots. Some of the victims were treated at the scene while others were taken to local hospitals. Police are appealing for witnesses. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau sent his sympathies to the victims and the city in a tweet, while Toronto Mayor John Tory condemned the despicable attack on people innocently enjoying a Sunday evening. Meanwhile, Islamic militants have stormed a military base in southern Somalia after detonating a suicide car bomb. The Al-Shabaab militant group says it killed 27 soldiers in the raid, which began just after early morning prayers. A Somali military officer said reinforcements had been sent to the area about 50 kilometers from the port city of Kismayo, but did not give further details about the attack. Al-Shabaab has been waging an insurgency in Somalia for more than 10 years. are 22,000-strong African Union forces in the country to help the government fight Al-Qaeda-linked militants. The U.S. military also has a presence of several hundred troops in Somalia to carry out special operations and to train government forces. Local reports say the sound of the blast and shooting was so loud that residents in the town of Jamami, about 70 kilometers from Kismayo, also heard it. Al-Shabaab carried out an assault in the area last month. At the time, the group said its fighters had killed a U.S. soldier, 2 Kenyans, and 9 Somali troops. Al-Shabaab has been driven out of many urban areas since 2011. However, it still controls territory in rural areas and carries out gun attacks and bombings on military and civilian targets. The temperatures in Japan have hit a record, officials issuing a fresh warning to stay safe. Japan has for days been in the grip of a deadly heat wave, although the numbers of reported killed vary widely from 15 to as high as 40. On Monday, the thermometer peaked at 41.1 degrees in Kumaingaya near Tokyo, breaking the previous national record to 41 Celsius from 2013. More than a dozen cities have seen temperatures of about 40 Celsius. Japan's Disaster Management Agency urged people to stay in air-conditioned spaces, drink water, and rest to prevent heat exhaustion. A meteorological agency official told journalists that people in areas where temperatures are high as 35 degrees or higher should be extremely careful to avoid heat stroke. Already this summer, more than 10,000 people have been taken to hospital as a result of the heat, according to local news.
France's interior minister has been grilled by members of parliament over his handling of a policing scandal in which a presidential security aide was filmed assaulting a demonstrator on 1st of May. Gerald Collum said he'd learned of the video on 2nd of May and did not report it to prosecutors because it was a matter for President Emmanuel Macron's staff. Mr. Macron fired the aide Alexander Benalla on Friday, but members of parliament wanted to know why he did not act sooner. Mr. Benalla, 26, faces several charges. He is accused of assault with an accomplice, interfering in police work, impersonating a police officer, and illegally receiving surveillance footage. He was Mr. Macron's top bodyguard during last year's elections campaign. Gunmen entered the governorate building in Erbil, the seat of Kurdistan's regional government in northern Iraq, on Monday and fired from windows at security forces. 2 policemen were wounded, though security forces have cleared the street around the building in the commercial sector of Erbil, capital of Iraq's semi-autonomous Kurdistan region. It was not immediately clear who the attackers were. The gunmen seized weapons from the guards. The group had targeted Kurdish forces and civilians in recent years. Kurdish Peshmerga fighters, along with Iraqi government forces and the U.S.-led coalition, waged war against Islamic State militants who had occupied a third of the country. U.S. President Donald Trump and Iranian President Hassan Rouhani have traded hostile warnings amid rising tension between the two countries. Mr. Trump tweeted Iraq will suffer consequences, the like of which few throughout history have suffered before if it threatened the U.S. Mr. Rouhani earlier said that war with Iran will be the mother of all wars. In May, the U.S. left a deal which curbed Iran's nuclear activities in return for the lifting of international sanctions. Washington is now reimposing the sanctions despite objections from the UK, France, China, Russia, and Germany, who all signed the 2015 agreement. Police said a prominent liberal South Korean politician embroiled in a corruption scandal was found dead on Monday in what appeared to be one of the country's highest-profile suicides in many years. The body of 3-term lawmaker Roh Ho-chan of the small opposition Justice Party was found near a Seoul apartment building. Police say the believed Roh, 61, leapt to his death from the building after leaving a suicide note. South Korea's media reported that Roh wrote 2 other suicide notes to his family, but the contents weren't made public. Rowe faced an investigation over an allegation that he'd received money from an associate of an influential blogger jailed in an online opinion rigging scandal. Rowe's death triggered an outpouring of sympathy from many South Koreans. President Moon Jae-in said his acts really ached over the sad news of Rowe's death. And the Human Rights Office says it is concerned about the increasing number of reports of voter intimidation, threats of violence and harassment ahead of Monday's election in Zimbabwe. For details of this and more, let's join Evie Egwari.
A statement said the incidents were mainly in the rural areas and included reports of people being forced to attend political rallies. The United Nations is also worried by the use of disparaging language against female political candidates. The statement did, however, welcome what is called the widening of the democratic space in Zimbabwe. Emerson Mnangagwa, who became president after Robert Mugabe was forced from power last year, is being challenged by several candidates, including Nelson Chamisa of the opposition MDC. At least 60 people have died in wildfires in the Attica region around Athens, in Greece's worst fire disaster in more than a decade. Flames fanned by strong winds devastated the seaside village of Mati, devouring homes and cars. Rescuers found the bodies of 26 adults and children who had apparently hugged each other as they died, trapped by the inferno just meters from the sea. Many calls have been made to the rescue services looking for missing persons. Mati is located in the Rafina region, which is popular with local tourists, especially pensioners and children attending holiday camps. Hundreds of firefighters have been battling the blazes, and the authorities are seeking international assistance. Prime Minister Alexis Tsipras has declared 3 days of national mourning. Meanwhile, hundreds of people are missing and an unknown number dead after a dam under construction collapsed in southeast Laos. The collapse at the hydroelectric dam in Atapu province late on Monday set flash floods through 6 villages. More than 6,600 people have been made homeless. Pictures showed villagers stranded on the roofs of submerged houses and boats carrying people to safety. Construction of the Xipane Namnon Dam began in 2013 and it was due to begin commercial operations next year.
Former Congolese warlord and Vice President Jean-Pierre Bemba says he believes he'll be the best candidate to represent the opposition in December's presidential election, but he was open to supporting another candidate. In his first in-depth appearance or public remarks since being acquitted in May on appeal for war crimes at The Hague, Bemba told a news conference in Brussels that standing for president was not an obsession but touted his experience and leadership qualities. Candidate registration is due to open on Wednesday. President Joseph Kabila, who has governed since 2001, is barred by term limits from running but has refused to commit publicly to not standing. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi pledged Wednesday to intensify and deepen the Asian country's commitment to Africa, saying his government will do more to support African governments. In remarks to Ugandan legislature, Modi said that Africa will be at the top of India's priorities, saying that India intends to open 18 embassies in Africa. He has told the ideals of Indian independent leader Mahatma Gandhi, saying India's freedom will remain incomplete so long as Africa remains in bondage. Modi on Tuesday announced his government will lend Uganda up to $205 million to expand the electricity grid and boost commercial farming. The Islamic State IS group on Wednesday claimed responsibility for a weekend shooting that killed 2 people in Canada's Toronto. The group's propaganda agency, AMAC, said the attacker was one of the soldiers of the Islamic State. It said he carried out the attack in response to calls to target nationals of countries of the coalition fighting IS in Syria and Iraq since 2014. Faisal Hussein, 29, killed an 18-year-old woman and a 10-year-old girl in the shooting rampage on Toronto streets on Sunday evening. He was found dead near the scene of the shooting after an exchange of gunfire with police. CNN on Wednesday released an alleged recording of the then U.S. presidential candidate Donald Trump's conversation with his former attorney Michael Cohen. For this and more stories on the foreign scene, let's join Catherine AMSA.
Violence has erupted as millions head of the polls in Pakistan, with at least 31 dead in the worst attack, a bomb in the city of Quetta. Elsewhere, minor blasts and clashes between party workers left several injured and 2 dead. Opinion polls suggest the election battle will be between the parties of ex-cricket star Imran Khan and the disgraced former Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif. But the campaign has been overshadowed by concerns of fraud and violence. The Human Rights Commission of Pakistan says there have been blatant attempts to manipulate the polls. Polling is due to end at 18:00 GMT, with results probably known early on Thursday. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi pledged Wednesday to intensify and deepen the Asian country's engagement with Africa, saying his government will do more to support African governments. In remarks to Uganda's legislature, Modi said that Africa will be at the top of India's priorities, saying that India intends to open 18 embassies in Africa. He extolled the ideals of Indian independence leader Mahatma Gandhi, saying India's freedom will remain incomplete so long as Africa remains in bondage. Modi on Tuesday announced his government will lend Uganda up to $205 million to expand the electricity grid and boost commercial farming. CNN on Wednesday released an alleged recording of the then U.S. presidential candidate Donald Trump's conversation with his former attorney Michael Cohen, where the two seems to be discussing payments to buy the right of an adult film actress's story about her purported affair with Trump. The decision reportedly took place 2 months prior to the 2016 presidential election and concerned payment for the story of model Karen McDougal, who said she had an extramarital affair with Trump some 10 years ago. McDougal sold her story for $150,000 to the National Enquirer, which refrained from publishing the story. McDougal has accused Cohen of making a secret deal with the head of the publication, who happens to be friends with Trump. According to the recording, Cohen proposes setting up a company to finance the purchase of the right from American media, which publishes the National Enquirer.
Let's take a quick break now. When we return, the World News Review continues. Please stay with us.
Independent television is live 24 hours on GoTV, channel 107, Star Times, channel 130. And now you can watch from any part of the world on Roku TV, Smart TV, Amazon Fire TV, and Android TV for your favorite programs, news, current affairs, and lots more. You don't want to miss our objective and balanced reportage, entertainment, and sports. Now follow us via our social media channels on Twitter at ITV Radio NG. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/ITV Radio NG. Like our Facebook page, facebook.com/ITV Radio NG. Visit our website for more news stories and lots more, itvradioNigeria.com. Watch ITV via live streaming on the internet, itvradioNigeria.com/live, and click on the TV stream option. Also remember to visit your mobile app store and download the ITV app so you can watch on the go. Independent television, certainly the best.
You're welcome back, and if you just joined us, this is the World News Review on Independent Television Abuja. Moving on, South Sudan's warring leaders have agreed to share power once again in a transitional government in the latest effort to end a 5-year civil war. South Sudan's Information Minister Michael Moki-Liut announced the agreement between President Salva Kiir and armed opposition leader Riek Machar to reporters in Sudan's capital, Khartoum. Foreign Minister Al-Didri Mohammed Ahmed said the agreement initialed Wednesday will be signed on August the 5th. Kiir will lead South Sudan's government during the transitional period, and Machar will return as first vice president. A similar arrangement, however, fell apart in July of 2016 when fighting erupted in the capital, Juba, and Machar led the country on foot. Former cricketer Imran Khan has claimed victory in Pakistan's election amidst accusation of vote rigging by rivals. His PTI party is still expected to fall short of an overall majority and to seek coalition partners. Campaigning has been marred by violence. On voting day, a bomb killed 31 people at a vote polling station. Mr. Khan, the charismatic aristocrat who captained Pakistan to a World Cup victory in 1992, has long shared his celebrity playboy image and has recently faced accusations that his election challenge was benefiting from military interference in the nuclear-armed republic. An official confirmation of the vote is being expected. Malians head for the polls to vote for a president on July 29th as the country grapples with chronic insecurity. For more on the foreign scene, let's join Effie Aguari.
It is largely fueled by the ascendancy of jihadist groups in Africa's Sahel region, but the specter of ethnic clashes and the lingering problem of Tuareg militias have also contributed to the atmosphere of insecurity. An Al-Qaeda-linked jihadist group has already issued a video warning people against voting. The group, Jamaat Nusrat al-Islam wal Muslimin, is now the main jihadist group in the country, and it has been terrorizing villagers in the expensive north, including the cities of Timbuktu, Gao, and Kidal. The jihadists exploit the weak borders of the Sahel and are involved in kidnapping and human trafficking, as well as weapons and drug smuggling, which finance jihadist expansion. Meanwhile, Greek Defense Minister Panos Kamenos says illegal construction has contributed to one of the country's worst ever wildfire disaster. He said building by residents between wooded areas was a crime that had resulted in blocking escape routes. Mr. Kamenos was confronted by angry locals as he visited areas devastated by fires east of Athens this week. At least 81 people died, and search teams fear they will find further victims as dozens more are missing. Arriving in the fire zone in the town of Mati on Thursday, Mr. Kamenos was surrounded by residents who accused him of abandoning them. Many of the survivors were saved by the sea, but a large number of the victims in Mati were trapped close to a cliff edge, unable to reach the weight. A small bomb was detonated outside the United States Embassy compound in Beijing on Thursday. Chinese police said in a statement the bomber, a 26-year-old man, identified only by his surname Jiang, injured his hand when the homemade firework device exploded. No one else was reported injured. Police said Jiang was from the city of Tongliaon in Chinese region of Inner Mongolia. The embassy said in a statement that Jiang was the only person involved and that no embassy property had been damaged. Officials have not released a motive for the incident as they continue their investigation.
And for Foreign News Friday, our correspondent is standing by.
North Korea has returned remains believed to be 55 U.S. troops killed during the Korean War, bringing renewed hope to families who have waited decades for closure. The return of the remains brought to a U.S. base in South Korea is the latest move in the caution's diplomacy between Washington and Pyongyang. The repatriation was agreed at the June summit between U.S. President Donald Trump and North Korea's Kim Jong-un. It is hoped more will follow. A U.S. military aircraft took the remains to the U.S. base at Asan in South Korea, where, according to the White House, a repatriation ceremony will be held on 1st August after some initial testing. The remains will then be brought to the U.S. to undergo thorough forensic testing. And in Pakistan, the party of the ex-Pakistan Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif says it will not boycott the country's new parliament despite reservations over the election results. Former cricketer Imran Khan, whose PTI party has a clear lead in results reported so far, has claimed victory. On Friday, a senior leader of Mr. Sharif's PMLN party said the outcome of the parliamentary vote would be accepted for the sake of democracy. The party had alleged vote rigging had taken place during Wednesday's poll. On Friday, a European Union monitoring team said the election campaign featured a lack of equality. Israel's defense minister has announced to build 400 settlement homes in the occupied West Bank after an Israeli settler was killed and 2 others were wounded in a knife attack. Abegdou Lieberman said in a tweet on Friday that the construction of new homes would be the best answer to the killing of 31-year-old Yotam Ovadia by a Palestinian teenager in the Geba Binyamin Adam settlement in the night before. Israel's settlement construction in the occupied West Bank is regarded as illegal under international law. Palestinians say that continued construction of illegal settlement on their land will run the chances of future Palestinian state constituting of the occupied West Bank, Gaza, and East Jerusalem as its capital, which was occupied during the 1967 war.
And that has been the World News Review on Independent Television Abuja. Thanks for watching. I'm Q Owu.